Welcome to another deep dive, everyone. This time, we're going to explore the fascinating world of Amazon SageMaker. I mean, you hear machine learning everywhere these days, but building these models? That sounds pretty daunting.
It used to be like really, really complex. You'd need a ton of infrastructure, expertise, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, not exactly a walk in the park.
Exactly. But that's where SageMaker comes in. It's like, imagine having all the tools and the support you need to build those powerful machine learning models, but without all that complexity.
Okay, so it's like having a personal machine learning assistant or something.
That's a great way to think about it. It takes care of a lot of the heavy lifting for you, so you're not bogged down with setting up servers and managing infrastructure.
So it's more accessible then, you'd say.
Way more accessible. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned data scientist or just starting out, SageMaker has something to offer you.
Okay, that makes sense. But before we dive into all the cool features, let's back up a bit. Why would someone choose SageMaker in the first place? What are the big selling points?
Well, one of the biggest ones is scalability. Like, let's say you have a massive data set you need to work with. Millions and millions of data points.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot of data.
Right. Traditionally, you'd need a ton of computing power to process that, and that gets expensive fast.
I can imagine.
But with SageMaker, you can scale your resources up or down as needed, so you only pay for what you use.
So it's kind of like having a supercomputer at your fingertips, but without the supercomputer price tag.
Exactly. And beyond the cost savings, SageMaker is designed to be super user-friendly.
Okay, so let's get into those user-friendly features. One that I keep hearing about is SageMaker Studio. What is that exactly?
SageMaker Studio is your central hub for all things machine learning. It's a fully integrated development environment, or IDE. Everything you need to build, train, deploy, and manage your models, all in one place.
So it's like a one-stop shop for your machine learning projects.
Precisely. And it helps you stay organized, track your experiments, all that good stuff.
That sounds pretty handy. But of course, you need good data to build a good model. And I see SageMaker has tools specifically for that, like Data Wrangler and Feature Store.
You're absolutely right. Data is the foundation of any machine learning project. And preparing that data can be a huge time sink.
Yeah, I bet. Cleaning data, formatting it, making sure it's all consistent.
Exactly. But Data Wrangler makes that process so much easier. You can prepare data from multiple sources, and you don't even need to write a single line of code.
So even someone who's not a coding expert can get their data in tip-top shape for machine learning.
Exactly. It's super user-friendly. And then there's Feature Store, which is all about efficiency and collaboration. Let's say you're working on a team, and everyone's building different models.
Okay, I can see where this is going.
Feature Store lets you create a central repository for reusable features. Those are the measurable characteristics that your model uses to make predictions.
So instead of each person having to create those features from scratch, they can just grab them from the feature store.
Exactly. It saves a ton of time and effort.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing that often comes up in discussions about AI is the need for human oversight.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in sensitive applications, you don't want to just let the machines make all the decisions.
Right. So how does SageMaker handle that?
Well, they have a feature called Augmented AI, or A2I for short.
A2I. Got it. What does that do?
A2I lets you easily bring humans into the loop. For example, if you're building a model to, say, moderate content, you can use A2I to have humans review the model's decisions.
So it's like having a checks and balances system in place.
Exactly. It ensures accuracy and fairness, especially in those tricky situations.
That's really important, especially as AI becomes more prevalent in our lives. But speaking of accessibility, what about those of us who aren't exactly coding whizzes? Can we still use SageMaker?
Of course. SageMaker has a tool specifically for that, SageMaker Canvas.
Canvas, like painting.
Sort of, except instead of painting, you're building machine learning models. But the best part is there's no coding involved.
Wait, seriously, no coding at all.
Nope, it's all drag and drop, super intuitive, and designed for folks who might not have a strong coding background.
So anyone, even someone with zero technical experience, could potentially build a machine learning model using Canvas.
That's the idea. We want to make this technology accessible to everyone.
That's pretty amazing. So we've talked about prepping data, making sure humans are in the loop. But how do you actually train a model in SageMaker?
Well, there are a few different ways. You can choose from a library of built-in algorithms, bring your own custom algorithm, or even let SageMaker do the heavy lifting for you with autopilot.
Okay, let's unpack those options. What are these built-in algorithms?
SageMaker has a whole bunch of pre-built algorithms that are optimized for different tasks, like classification, regression, you name it.
So if you're working on a common machine learning problem, you can just grab one of these pre-built algorithms and get going.
Exactly. They're great starting points, especially if you're new to machine learning.
And what if you have a more unique problem that requires a custom solution?
Then you can bring your own algorithm. SageMaker supports all the popular frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch.
So you have a lot of flexibility there. Now, what about this autopilot thing? It sounds almost too good to be true.
I know, right? It's pretty cool. Basically, Autopilot can automatically explore different algorithms and settings to find the best performing model for your specific problem.
So it takes the guesswork out of model training.
Exactly. It can save you a ton of time and effort.
That sounds like a huge time saver. But even with autopilot, fine-tuning a model can be tricky, right? Like finding the perfect settings. What's that called again?
Hyperparameter tuning. And yeah, it can be a real pain.
So how does SageMaker handle that?
They have automatic hyperparameter tuning. It uses something called Bayesian optimization to intelligently search for the best settings for your model.
Okay, so it's like having a super smart assistant who knows exactly how to tweak the knobs and dials to get the best performance out of your model.
Exactly, and it can save you a ton of time and frustration.
That's pretty incredible. But, building a powerful model is only half the battle. We also need to make sure it's used responsibly. How does SageMaker address this whole issue of AI governance and compliance?
That's a really important point, and SageMaker has several features to help with that. It gives you tools to monitor your models, track their lineage, and make sure they're being used fairly and transparently.
So it's not just about building powerful models, it's about building them ethically.
Exactly. It's about building trust and making sure AI is used for good.
I like that. So once you've built and trained your model, how do you actually get it out into the world? How does deployment work in SageMaker?
SageMaker gives you a few options for deployment. You can deploy models for real-time inference, where you get predictions on demand through an API. You can use batch transform to process large data sets offline. And then there's SageMaker Edge for deploying models to devices at the edge.
Edge deployment, what does that even mean?
It means you can run your model on things like smartphones, cars, even industrial sensors.
So basically AI that lives outside the cloud.
Exactly. It opens up all sorts of possibilities.
That's pretty wild. But once your model is out there in the real world, how do you make sure it's still performing well? I mean, things change, data changes.
That's where SageMaker Model Monitor comes in. It helps you detect things like data drift and any drop in model quality.
So it's like a regular checkup for your model to make sure it's still healthy.
Exactly. And if you do find that your model is making mistakes, SageMaker Clarify can help you understand why.
So it's not just about knowing that there's a problem, it's about understanding what's causing the problem.
Precisely. It's about transparency and explainability, which are crucial for building trust in AI.
Okay, all of this sounds fantastic, but I'm curious, how do people actually interact with SageMaker itself? Is it all code-based, or are there other ways to use it?
There are a few different ways to interact with SageMaker. You can use the AWS Management Console, which is a web-based interface. Or, if you're more comfortable with code, you can use SageMaker Studio, which we talked about earlier. And for folks who like to automate things, there's the AWS SDK and CLI.
So there's a way to use SageMaker no matter your level of technical expertise.
Exactly. We want to make it as flexible and accessible as possible.
So this is all great in theory, but how is SageMaker actually being used out in the wild? Can you give us some concrete examples?
Absolutely. SageMaker is being used across a ton of different industries, from finance to healthcare to retail. Like in financial services, it's being used to detect fraudulent transactions and assess credit risk.
Oh, that makes sense. Those are areas where accurate predictions are super important.
Right. And in healthcare, SageMaker is being used to predict diseases, analyze medical images, even personalize treatment plans. And in retail, it's powering recommendation engines, demand forecasting, inventory optimization, all sorts of things.
Wow, so SageMaker is basically touching every aspect of our lives.
In a way, yeah. And it's only going to become more prevalent as machine learning continues to evolve.
I mean, it's incredible to see how much machine learning is already being used. And it sounds like SageMaker is making it, well, easier to get involved.
Definitely, yeah. It's a rapidly changing field, though, for sure.
I bet. What do you see as, like, the next big thing? Where is all this tech headed?
Well, SageMaker's always getting updated, new features all the time.
Always got to keep up with the times, right?
Absolutely. And one area I'm really excited about is edge computing. I mean, we talked about SageMaker Edge a bit.
Yeah, deploy models to devices and stuff.
Right, exactly. But think about it, running these complex models on things like smartphones or cars
Or just in the cloud anymore.
Exactly. It's like AI embedded everywhere, you know?
Okay. Yeah, it's a little scary, but also super cool.
Definitely both. Imagine like your car not only driving itself, but also like anticipating your needs, adjusting the temperature or music based on, what you like.
That's pretty futuristic.
Right. Or smart homes that learn your habits and adjust things automatically, lights, heat, even security.
Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's getting closer all the time, but with all this power comes responsibility too, right?
Yeah, for sure, like ethical stuff, making sure it's used for good.
Exactly. We need to think about things like bias, transparency, accountability.
So how does SageMaker help with that?
Well, it's designed with that in mind. It has tools to address those concerns.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, so we talked about SageMaker Clarify, right? It can help you find potential bias in your models.
Right?
And Model Monitor can keep track of where your data came from and how it was used.
So you have that paper trail, so to speak.
Exactly. Transparency is key.
That makes sense. So for someone who's like excited about all this, but maybe a bit intimidated, what would you say to them? Where should they start?
Don't be intimidated. Seriously, SageMaker makes it pretty easy to get started.
Easier than you'd think?
Way easier. There are tons of resources, tutorials, documentation, even like online communities.
Oh, wow. So you can connect with other people too.
Exactly. And you don't need to be like a coding genius, With Canvas, anyone can experiment.
That's really cool. So anyone can potentially get involved with this?
Exactly. We want everyone to be able to explore the power of machine learning.
Awesome. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today. SageMaker basics, the future of AI, ethical stuff. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, it has. And I think one of the main takeaways is that machine learning isn't just for like big tech companies anymore.
Yeah, it's more accessible than ever before.
Right. And platforms like SageMaker are making it happen.
I mean, we've talked about so many uses for it, everything from business to healthcare to just like everyday life.
Absolutely. Predicting customer behavior, optimizing processes, diagnosing diseases, even driving cars.
It's wild. It's almost like machine learning is touching every part of our lives.
It really is. But, SageMaker is just one tool in a much larger ecosystem.
Right. Machine learning is constantly evolving.
Exactly. New tools, new techniques popping up all the time.
So it's important to stay curious, right? Keep learning and see what's out there.
Absolutely. The field is constantly moving forward, so gotta stay on top of things.
That's the spirit of the deep dive. Always exploring new frontiers.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And as we continue this journey, it's crucial to approach AI responsibly.
For sure, making sure it benefits everyone.
That's what it's all about, harnessing the power of AI for good.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing to think about all the positive change this tech could bring.
It's really inspiring. The potential is huge.
Absolutely. So for our listeners who are, ready to jump in, what would you suggest? What's a good place to start?
Well, SageMaker is a great place to begin. I mean, Amazon has so many resources, tutorials, documentation. There are even online communities.
So you don't have to go it alone.
Exactly. It's a whole support system, really.
That's awesome. And you don't even need to be a coding expert to start experimenting.
Not at all. Like we said, with Canvas, anyone can give it a try.
It's really cool that machine learning is becoming so accessible.
That's the goal. We want everyone to have the chance to explore this technology.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Amazon SageMaker. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it has. Thanks to everyone for listening in. I hope you found it informative and, maybe even a little inspiring.
Definitely. And remember, folks, keep learning, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe you'll be building the next groundbreaking AI application.
The future is full of possibilities.
That's a great note to end on. So until next time, keep on diving deep.